What I'm going to share with you today. It's based in a book that I still don't know how it ended up in my Kindle. It's something that I got from the Hawaii State Library, and I didn't have it on a list. I didn't have it, so I don't know how it got here, but it's really good for us that it did. The name of the book is called Into the Magic Shop, a neurosurgeon's quest to discover the mysteries of the brain and the secrets of the heart. And his name is James Doty. So I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy before, but this book is unbelievable. It is so beautiful. This guy, he's the first scientist that His Holiness the Dalai Lama actually took his own money from his own royalties and gave it to him to sponsor a project that he had been supporting himself, studying the effect of the heart, studying the fact that, according to neuroscientists, the heart actually has more to do with our intelligence than the brain, which of course, you know, the Tibetans have been telling this for a very long time. And he tells this beautiful story about how they brought a bunch of His Holiness's people in to test them, because they, you know, they're hooking them up with all these electrodes all over their head, you know, and hooking them up to this machine. And the lamas are just giggling. They're like totally hysterical. And so the scientists thought, well, okay, this must be because, you know, it must be kind of silly to them to have these things stuck on them and so forth. And so they mentioned it to the lamas that they were testing, and they went, no, this is fine. There's no problem. But they said, but how are you going to test the power of compassion? By checking up on the brain. It doesn't sit in the brain. It sits in the heart. So very, very amusing. But let me just tell you a little bit about this guy's story. And, you know, if you like spiritual stories, I highly recommend you get the book one way or the other. You can rent it, you know, you can check it out from the Hawaii State Library. But at any rate, I want to give you some idea of the story so that you can see the context of the practices, because I'm going to share these practices with you as well, and also show you, or try to point out why our Tara practice is so extraordinarily effective. Because this has been a question of mine since I started. I could never figure out why people were having these tremendous spiritual insights and experiences that lasted with them their whole life. So why was that? I needed to know why. And there were no words, and it took me quite a while to figure this out. But this guy spells it out. It's unbelievable. So his story, 12 years old, his father was a drunk, would come home and beat his mother and his brother and sister, and used up whatever money he made on alcohol. So they were chronically hungry. This kid was chronically hungry for 12 years. The mother, the way she dealt with it was by taking pills and getting sick. And so she was always on the edge of dying. And in fact, she did OD once, and he found her, got her to the hospital, and she recovered. But, for a 12-year-old kid, this is an intense story. So anyway, here's this 12-year-old kid, and he's on his bicycle, and he just gets this wild hair to go to the other side of town. He had never been there before, but he decided that he just had to get away from the scene at his house. So he's over there, and he sees that there's a magic shop. Well, he's really, really interested in magic. This is something that he's been playing with, doing the cards and doing all kinds of magic tricks. And so he thinks, oh, this is the place for me. So he goes into the store, and there's nobody there. And he's looking around, and he's calling out, trying to get somebody's attention. And this older woman comes out and looks at him, and she starts this conversation with him. And she said to him, look, if you really want to know magic, I can teach you. I'll teach you a magic that nobody else can teach you. But you have to promise me that for the 6 weeks that I'm here, you will come every single day and you'll do everything I tell you to do. And so he said, well, that sounds pretty far out, but what's the result of this magic? And she said, it will change your life, and it will give you everything that you want. Well, to a 12-year-old boy, this sounded pretty incredible. I mean, he was ready. Sign me up, right? And so he comes the next day, according to arrangements. He shows up and sits down, and she leads him on a practice that we would call mindfulness. Now, this is, I think it was in the 50s, right? This is before mindfulness became a big word in our world. In fact, no one was paying any attention to this at all, except, the extremists, the little handful of Buddhists, etc. So, she said, okay, what you have to do, you have to relax your body. You have to relax your body completely. You have to be able to turn off the stress. But of course, he's 12 years old. So the language that she used was something that he could easily understand, which is really good for us because it's a language that we can understand too. So she sits him down, and she goes through this whole practice that, we would call Shinei, or calm abiding. The Vipassana students, Anapana. We start by paying attention to the body and relaxing the body and getting into a deep state of relaxation. And so right away, the kid starts noticing, because she says to him, okay, you have to do this practice at least 10, 20, 30 minutes if you can, but just start with 10 minutes, start with a few minutes, but you have to do it every single day, and you have to tell me that you're doing it every single day. And then, so he does this, and he does this for a few days. And so then she says, okay, so now the next thing is, he's starting to trust her, because he starts to notice that he feels different when he does this. And she asks him, well, how do you feel? And he says, well, I feel kind of warm and relaxed. And she said, okay, we're going in the right direction. So she said, now, whenever things get tense at your house or at your school, or, you know, because he was so poor, he wore really raggedy clothes. And so when he went to school, he was picked on. He was constantly being beaten up by the bullies in the crowd. And so he says, okay, all right. She said, now listen, whenever you start to tense up, now start paying attention. Whenever it starts happening, do the practice. Of course, you know, you don't have to do the details or anything, but, you know, you already know how to work your way, because this practice is, you know, she starts with some breathing, and then, you know, start with the toes and so forth. She works her way up. And I will introduce you to this just because it's adorable. Anyway, after a week or so, about a week or 10 days of this, he actually has really started to change. He realizes, wow, this is definitely a strange kind of magic. It's not abracadabra, but it you know, it really has changed his attitude in many ways, his ability to deal with his family. So then she introduces the next meditation, which I'm going to run these two together. The next one is called Training the Mind. Okay, Tibetan Buddhists, have you heard this one before? Or even from me, you know, training the mind. The idea, she explains to him that the mind actually, even though we think, she has a beautiful line here, if I can find it, it's so cute. Your mind is going to think about thinking. And the minute it does that, you're going to have to stop thinking about thinking without thinking about it. Okay, let's breathe into that one for a second. Okay, so remember, it's a 12-year-old boy we're talking about. So, you know, but of course, it's a very respected neuroscientist who's reporting on the 12-year-old boy, and says that, well, it was confusing to him, but he was willing to do whatever she said because he really wanted to get that plum, which was whatever you want, you can get. So she leads him on several practices of how to look at the thinker, So she starts with breathing, you know, just breathing, and then asks him to look at his thoughts. Well, as we all know, we have all had this fabulous experience of looking at our thoughts and panicking because it looks like, how am I supposed to stop my thoughts? And of course, you know, she demonstrates to him, you know, okay, where are you? And he said, oh, I'm thinking about the girl and that sits in front of me with the long braid. And she goes, okay, so back to your breath. And then, where are you? Oh, well, I'm thinking about, you know, my brother and how he stole my toy, and it's really hard. She said, oh, back to the breath. So finally he looks at her and he goes, this is impossible. I can't do this. So she said, okay, let's make it a little easier. So she gets out a candle flame and she puts the candle down and she said, look at this. And now concentrate on the flame. And when the thoughts go, and she said, naturally they will go. She said, don't worry about that. It's not bad that your thoughts are going. So let them go. But notice that they're going and pull your attention back to the candle flame. So he did that for a week. And he talks about how he sneaks into a Catholic church and instead of lighting the candle at the church, he puts some money in the box and he takes the candle so he can practice with the candle. So he's practicing with the candle. All right. And then that started improving. He really saw an improvement in that. But it was still really difficult. He thought, this is impossible. I can't do this. So she said, okay, I'm going to teach you another trick. But this trick is really a very interesting. I'm going to need your cooperation. So for this, we have to figure out some words. It doesn't matter what words you choose, but I want you to choose 2 words. Doesn't matter what. So he picks these innocuous words, the girl's name and the doorknob. Chris Doorknob. And she said, okay, now slow it down and concentrate on just that. So the effort that it took, and then she mentions, just sort of aside, that this is called mantra, that there are many different kinds of mantra. Everybody has their own kind of mantra. So it doesn't matter what mantra it is. What matters is, are you actually orienting the mind? Are you training the mind to return to the mantra every time if you lose it? Okay, well, this is much easier for him. He actually found that that was the easiest way for him to go. So they did these practices for a while. They really concentrated in a beautiful way on these different, the shine and the vipassana, the insight, the understanding of the arisal of the mind and all the thoughts. Well, then she really throws a curveball at him. And she said, okay, are you ready for number 3? And oh, yes, he's ready, because he really wants to get what he wants, right? He's already starting to notice that things have really changed. And he tells a whole story of how he encounters a bully, and actually he stares him down because he has gained so much self-confidence. So the next thing that she says to him is, now we need to open your heart. And so this kind of freaks him out, because he goes, you know, what does the heart have to do with it? And she said, well, actually, getting what you want has a lot to do with knowing what's happening with your heart. So now we have to concentrate on your heart. Well, he reports that this is probably the most difficult thing that he could possibly do, because his heart hurt. And every time he looked at his heart, what he encountered was pain. And so she said, that's okay. That's exactly the point, is that we want to be able to feel everything that we feel. She tells him, she said, the only way you're going to really get the magic, the only way you're going to master this magic, is if your heart has broken. And she said, I know that your heart is broken. I can feel that your heart is broken. So now I'm going to help you to find your way to that. And so she leads him on this whole journey of compassion practices. And she gives him these statements to say. So he wrote it down, and every day, all the time. She said, you've got to say this all the time. So this is it. I am worthy. I am loved. I am cared for. I care for others. I choose good for myself. I choose good for others. I love myself. I love others. I open my heart. My heart is open. So now remember, again, it's a 12-year-old boy who's getting beaten by his father and who's taking care of his mother and rescuing his brother and sister. So he has a tremendous amount of personal pain in his life. And he reports how difficult it was for him to do this. And this woman, her name was Ruth, by the way, Ruth, who throughout the book, he makes no claims for Ruth's, wherever she got this, he has no idea. It was all her. And she says to him, yes, it's going to hurt, but if you persist, it will get easier. And so he starts on this journey of working with the heart, working with his heart, trying to allow himself, trying to encourage himself, trying to stand by himself, you might say, in this journey. And he reports that this is the most difficult piece that he had to deal with, that there were some things that were so painful, and he felt so bad about himself. He felt that he must be doing something wrong to have merited such a painful family. Why was he born in this family? Why did he have to Why did he have to be so poor? Why was he always hungry? Because, of course, he showed up every day. He was starving. There wasn't any food in the house. So Ruth did feed him as well. At any rate, this goes on. And finally, 5 weeks are gone. And he's been practicing all of these different engagements that she was pointing out to him. And then he said, well, what about the last one? What about, how do I get what I want? Because, that's what you promised. That's the real magic, is the abracadabra. And, what I want is, I don't want to have to move out of my house because my father can't pay the rent. I want enough food to eat every day. I want clothes that I could wear to school that I'm not embarrassed about. I want the boys at school to stop picking on me. I mean, he had a 12-year-old list. But then it went on. His list included, I want to go to college. Nobody in his family had ever been to college. I want to become a doctor because some doctor had come to his classroom and talked about being a doctor and said to him, you too could be a doctor if you wanted to be. And so somewhere in his mind, he decided that's what he wanted. He wanted to become a millionaire. He wanted a Porsche. He wanted a beautiful house to live in. He listed she only let him list 10 things. She said, I'm sure that the list could be longer than that, but let's just stop at 10. So he had this list. And she said, now, she taught him her magic trick, which I will share with you when I share the meditations with you. This turned his life around. He actually, and of course, I encourage you to read the book, to read the story, because I can't tell you all the details. But he ended up graduating from college miraculously, getting the full scholarship, even though he wasn't a good student. And he went to medical school, and he became a renowned neuroscientist. Plus, he learned how to invest money. He became a billionaire. He had something like $57 billion. And he attributed it all to these practices that she had taught him. But what he reports in his book is that the only time that he ever lied, the only time he had ever lied to Ruth was when she asked him, do you think that you have fulfilled the this practice of the heart? Do you think that you really have looked totally in your heart and accepted yourself completely, that you love yourself, that you're able to love unconditionally? And he said to her, yes. But what he reports after he became a billionaire is he realized that he lied. That was the only time he lied to her, because he really, really, really wanted this last piece of how to get what you want. And she said to him then, she said, this is dangerous. I can tell you how to do this because the universe responds. But if you don't ask first that whatever you want be for the benefit of everyone around you, it's very dangerous. Getting what you want is very dangerous, and it may not make you happy. But he insisted. He told her, oh yeah, I'm, my heart is open and everything is fine, and so I want to get what I want. And so she taught him this last practice. And let's see, what does she call it? The last practice is clarifying your intent. Okay, well, so here he is. He's a billionaire, and he's a famous neurosurgeon, and he's obnoxious. He's completely obnoxious, totally arrogant, because he knows how to get what he wants. And so therefore, he's superior to the people around him. He's not together with them. He's not, she was trying to point him in the direction of interconnectedness, and he wasn't buying it. 12 years old, couldn't get that one. And he brought it all into his adult life. And so he ended up becoming extremely obnoxious, and he invested all his money in some kind of .com something or other, and it went bust, and he lost most of his, he lost almost all of his millions, his billions. And he lost everything but his Porsche. He got to keep his Porsche. But what he discovered then is he remembered Ruth's words. He remembered that she said, you know, getting what you want isn't necessarily going to make you happy. This reminded me of a story of a very old friend of mine on Maui, who, he was a plastic surgeon. And he told me a similar story about how he was a kid, he lived on the streets of Detroit. He was an orphan, and he lived under a box, and he was very, very, you know, poor. He was beyond poor. He was just a homeless kid, 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old, and determined that he was going to live in the big house with the pillars. And his whole journey was very similar. He ended up becoming one of the most famous plastic surgeons in the country. He became a millionaire, and he said the most unhappy day of his life was when he moved into the mansion with the pillars, because he realized that all that money and all that achievement still didn't make him happy. So this guy came up with the same understanding, and he wandered around for a little while, ended up in New Orleans, and he decided to help. He wanted to serve, and so he had a few million left, and he invested this in nonprofit organizations that helped people. He was really determined to help the poor because he himself had been so impoverished. And he helped set up a hospital and blah, blah, blah. He went on and on and on. But then in his research, he decided that he wanted to do some research. And the research that he was really getting very interested in was in the heart. What was the relationship between the heart and the brain? And because of Ruth saying, if you get what you want, you have to first have the heart aligned, because the heart is more powerful than anything, and it will bring you into a good place where you can be happy with whatever it is that you receive. And so he'd started all of this research, and he did a tremendous amount of just on his own, financing it himself, and ended up starting this this beautiful nonprofit. Let's see if I can find it, the title. Oh yeah, I know, that's over here. Yeah, the Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education. So they started researching, and this was when he had this, his wife was talking to him about somebody he'd never heard of before, the Dalai Lama. And he said, well, what's so great about him? And she said, well, if you want to talk about somebody who's mastered the art of compassion, there you go. He's the one. And so he said, oh, okay, well, I'll see if I can have a conversation with him. So without having any idea about who His Holiness is, he calls the office of His Holiness in New York, and because he's this famous neurosurgeon, and you know how His Holiness feels about scientists. I mean, His Holiness considers that he's half Buddhist monk and half scientist. And so when they explained who he was and what he wanted, immediately they set up an appointment. And when His Holiness started talking to him, he said, you know, I receive a lot of money for my books. I have my own money. I don't have to take anybody else's money. It's my own money from the royalties of my books, and I'm giving it to you. So because he did that, a number of other very wealthy sponsors, donors, showed up to help them to increase the study on the actual what's happening. How does this work? What is going on with the brain in reference to compassion? How do we put this together? What is actually happening? And so he did these, it's incredible, the research that he engaged in. It's really very, very beautiful. So anyway, those of you, who get my papers, I will send all of this information to you. But you can also look the guy up. There's a lot of internet stuff. James Doty, D-O-T-Y, MD. So, lots of videos, lots of TED Talks. He really, he explains in layman's form, although a lot of the notes I took, I thought, oh God, I can't, it's difficult for me to put together all these scientific terms. But for instance, what he was saying about the vagus nerve, around the heart, the nerves that are around the heart and that are connected to the brain by the vagus nerve, that all of these are the impulses towards compassion, towards working together. Whereas the brain, its impulses, that he talks about the different levels and the different pieces of the brain, its impulses are protection and reproduction. But the impulses around the heart, what surrounds the heart, is about coming together, about unity, about compassion, about supporting this view of us being united, one togetherness. And so he has, by doing all of these different tests, he was pointing out that one of the first brain tests that I did in relation to these scientific study, one of the first tests that they did was about mindfulness training. And so what they noticed is that in this mindfulness training, the first level of training that Ruth gave him, that the students that participated in this training over the course of only 2 weeks showed a significant improvement across the line. So memory improved, attention improved, autoimmune system improved, every aspect of their life improved by just mindfulness training. But he pointed out that even though we are able to do that, that it doesn't really give the complete picture. It doesn't really open us to the complete picture. Let's see if I can find that incredible quote that says, here it is. A 2013 study by researchers at the University of California, Santa Barbara, found that focused attention meditation training improved memory, focus, cognitive function after just 2 weeks of practice. However, where is it? Oh dear. Here it is. Mindfulness and visualization are wonderful techniques for getting quiet, eliminating distraction, journeying inward, increasing focus, helping us make decisions more quickly. But without wisdom and opening the heart, the techniques can result in self-absorption, narcissism, and isolation. This is really very important for us to hear, because it has been my experience that in engaging in spiritual practices such as yoga, Tai Chi, that there are many kinds of practices that stimulate the ability to focus, to meditate, to eliminate distraction, etc. But if there isn't an emphasis on the heart, if there isn't an emphasis on this engagement for the sake of all beings, on this recognition that we need to love ourselves and love each other and work together. Without that understanding, then we are lost. That if the goal is happiness and freedom, that we've lost the point completely, because we are trapped by our own self-obsession. So that's a really important little piece there. Another really important thing, and then we'll go on to the meditation. I want to be sure to get that in before it gets too dark here, but it seems like the thunder has passed, so that's good. Is this line here. Using visual imagery to create new neural pathways in the brain. The brain doesn't distinguish between an experience that is intensely imagined and an experience that is real. Now think about that, because of course this has everything to do with our Tara dance and our Tara practice, and those of us who are doing any kind of deity yoga. That, and we've mentioned this before, that imagining Tara, imagining ourselves as Tara, that engaging in this kind of practice creates our own neural pathways. And the more we emphasize it, the more we do it, the stronger it becomes. Because the brain doesn't distinguish. It doesn't separate between what we consider imagination, and which is one dimension of consciousness, as we've discussed before, and what we call reality, which of course, again, even that is questionable what exactly that means. So when we want to align ourselves, when we want to awaken, when we talk about accomplishing the full potential of our humanity, when that's what we're discussing, then we need to really understand how to use this mode, this way in which we develop these neural pathways so that they automatically arise for us. So in these trainings, what we're trying to do, first of all, and the other piece that he explains that they did a lot of testing and examination about, is the understanding that when we engage in this way, when we set our focus on accomplishing something, that if we use the power of our interconnected, of our vegus, of our heart, that it can overcome any negative tendencies in the body-mind. We can, so he said what his research has uncovered is the fact that mind-wise, the mind is very plastic. It's movable. It's not one thing. It's not set in stone. It definitely can adapt. So, but we have to engage. We can't just, it can't be a wannabe. The wannabe starts there, but then we have to engage in actually developing the neural pathways by repetitively acknowledging them, repetitively affirming them. So every time we do our mantra, every time we do our practice, every time I am Tara, my name is Prema, I am whatever, yes, my name is, every time we do this, we are aligning that neural pathway so that when the challenge occurs, that's what arises. This was the other thing that was extremely interesting about their research, is that they discovered that when the body is repeatedly engaged in stressful preoccupation. So in other words, if we're constantly thinking about what's wrong, and all the time thinking about what's wrong and what do we need to do about what's wrong, and without any relief, that in fact the heart muscle becomes quiet, and it is not plastic. It doesn't adjust. And so when and of course, the stress, it's not really fight or flight, but that's the message that the body is giving, is fight or flight, fight or flight. And it keeps hitting that when we allow ourselves to reflect in that way, what's wrong, what we can't do, what we're not getting. So when that occurs, then the heart muscle flattens out, and it doesn't, the vagus nerve and what surrounds the heart stops being the one that's directing the traffic. And it's the brain that starts directing the traffic, which is fight or flight attitude. When that happens, the heart, if a real problem hits, if some kind of something really hits the panic, not just this endless whining, the heart cannot adjust. It doesn't adjust. So in other words, by keeping the heart open and managing our stress by continually relaxing the body, that allows us to be more flexible whenever a real situation occurs, and it allows us to deal with it in an open-hearted and compassionate way rather than a fight or flight way. So I thought that was a brilliant piece of information, and that was certainly quite an interesting thing when these scientists discovered. It was not what they had imagined at all. They thought that that being peaceful, that the heart would not be so prepared to deal with stress, but it was exactly the opposite. The more stress we allow to have in our life, the harder it is for the heart to deal with it. So, and the more it reacts with the impact. Well, anyway, I could go on, but I'm not going to. I want to give you a chance to do a little bit of meditation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead you through the first meditation, and then I'm going to ask you to stand to do the second meditation. Of course, you can do it sitting down if you want. You can do whatever you want, because you're over there, I'm over here, and I'm not going to judge you, but I'm suggesting. I'm going to put on an image. I'm going to put an image on the screen so that you're not watching me. You have the option to close your eyes and just listen, or to look at the, I'm going to put an image of a mandala on the screen, at least for the first two. So I'm going to try leading you through these different meditations. So Midi, I think I better plug in the computer, and since since it's no longer, the thunder and lightning seems to have passed, so that danger is over. Yeah, okay, so give me a second, folks, to just share this. Ta. Okay, there we go. I think, oops, wait a second, I need to do this again. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now sit in a meditative posture, whatever's comfortable for you. Most important is back straight. And you're welcome to close your eyes, or to open your eyes and look at the screen. But with this particular practice, I suggest you close your eyes. And just get in touch with your breath. And as you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, as you breathe comfortably, if this is a distraction, you can breathe whatever is comfortable. But Ruth found it most successful Breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now think about how you are sitting and mentally imagine that you're looking at yourself. Now with your mind focused, we're going to set the intention. The intention of this practice is to become deeply relaxed. So feel yourself affirm that the intention of this practice is to become deeply relaxed. So now, pay attention, look at your toes. Remember, you're across from yourself, you're looking at yourself. Look at your toes and think about relaxing your toes. Just simply relax your toes. And now, relax your feet. Keep breathing comfortably. And now your feet are so relaxed, they almost feel like they could melt as you breathe in and breathe out. Now, bring your attention to your ankles. Relax your ankles. Bring your attention to your calves. Relax the muscles of your calves. Bring your attention to your thighs. Relax the muscles of your thighs. Bring your attention to your bottom and your hips, your belly. Relax the muscles of your bottom. Relax the muscles of your hips. Relax the muscles of your belly. Bring your attention to your chest, your diaphragm. Relax your diaphragm. Bring your attention to your spine and relax all the muscles along your spine. Relax your shoulders. Relax your neck. Relax the muscles of your face, your scalp, your arms, your hands. Breathe deeply and comfortably, completely relaxed. Feel any warmth? Focus now on your heart. Imagine that you're relaxing your heart muscle. Breathing in and out. Body relaxed. Heart relaxed. Breathing in and out. Feel as if you are floating on a warm sea, completely calm. Breathing in and out. This is the essence of what Ruth calls trick number 1, relaxing the body. So now trick number 2, taming the mind. Continue to focus on your breath. And as you do, if thoughts arise, be gentle with yourself and bring your attention back to your breath. Now, Open your eyes and look at the mandala in front of you on your screen. And as you look at the mandala, if thoughts arise, bring your attention back to the mandala. Now we're going to try another mind training technique. You're welcome to stand if you like. For those of you who have danced Tara with us before, put your hands up over your head and say to yourself, Om Tare, Tu Tare. Bring your hands to your heart. Ture, bow, Soha. Open. Om Tare, stay open. Tu Tare. Bring your hands to your heart. Ture, bow, Soha. Open. Om Tare, hands up over your head. Tu Tare. Bring your hands to your heart. Ture, bow, Soha. Open. Om Tare, hands up. Om Tare, Tu Tare, to the heart. Ture, bow, Soha. Now say it out loud with me. Ready? Hands up over the head. Om Tare, Tu Tare, Ture, Soha. Om Tare, Tu Tare, Ture, Soha. These are 3 different ways to engage the mind in such a way that it focuses in concentration. You are training the mind to do what you're asking it to do. The fact that we couple movement with mantra is so powerful because we must focus the mind if we're going to coordinate with each other. So there's not a lot of room for all of our normal self-obsessed thoughts about what's wrong and what's going wrong. Now we're going to move on to the 3rd practice, but we're going to do this very simply because our time is going. But I really am happy that I can share this with you. So let's see if I can find this. Okay, so now put your hands on your heart and really think about your own life and how difficult it has been. We've had wonderful, blessed opportunities. We've had challenges. We've had intense relationships. We've had health challenges, every kind of challenge. So now, with your hands on your heart, I want you to say to yourself, I am worthy. Say it out loud. I am worthy. I am loved. Out loud. I am cared for. I care for others. I choose good for myself. I choose good for others. I love myself. I love others. I open my heart. My heart is open. So now just breathe that a little bit, this idea of loving yourself, honoring yourself, appreciating yourself, wanting to do good for yourself. And really feel the warmth of that. Feel the warmth of those who love you. So think for a moment of a person in your life who has given you unconditional love. Doesn't matter who it is. It could be your mother, your father, your best friend, your sweetheart, your child, someone who really has given you unconditional love. And feel the warmth of that. Feel the contentment of that beautiful unconditional love. And now for a moment, think of someone in your life that you give that unconditional love to. Someone that you care deeply about. It could be your child, your family, your teacher. It can be your pet. You want to really cultivate the sense of unconditional love so that you recognize it and can work with it and can stimulate it in your own heart whenever you choose. Think about someone who loves you, no matter what your flaws or imperfections, whatever you think is your flaws or imperfections, they love you despite that. Definitely in our practice, Mother Tara is right there. She loves everything about us, our flaws and our imperfections. And now think of the one that you love unconditionally, whatever their flaws or imperfections are. Feel yourself surrounding them with your unconditional love. What a gift it is. How warm it is and how wonderful to feel cared for. Now think for a moment of a person that you feel neutral towards, someone that you don't know very well. But can you extend this unconditional love to them? Imagine somebody, maybe a neighbor, somebody that you don't see all the time, or maybe someone at work, or maybe the grocery store clerk that you see once a week, or the mailman, or somebody that just choose anyone, but do choose one person that you can do this with, because it's very helpful to learn to orient the body-mind, to orient the heart to opening in unconditional love, so that at any moment, wherever you are, you can touch into that warm feeling and extend that to whoever is around you. To complete the meditation, now I'm going through this quickly because our time is going. You can really pay some more attention to this when you have time. But think of someone that really you have a difficult relationship with. It could be an ex-husband or ex-wife, or it could be a teacher or somebody at work, somebody who really, of course, you know, we all have our political views as well, someone that you really argue with. But look at this person and look at their humanity, how we have no idea what a difficult life, how much they have lived with disappointment, that they have flaws and imperfections, just like we do, and that they long for happiness and fulfillment, just as we do. So can you allow yourself to just feel that, just for the moment, without any judgment? Don't go to the judgment side of what's going on, just tune into their humanity. And open your heart and extend your unconditional love. So now the last meditation is called clarifying your intent. Now I will go through this quickly. If you really want to do these practices, as I've said, anyone who donates in any way, I'll send all of the papers to you. And you can engage or get the book or go online. All of this is online, by the way. He lists these very practices online, no problem. But at any rate, let's do this last one. Think of a goal, something that you really want to accomplish. Don't worry about the details, but the most important thing is that this goal does not involve harm to anyone else. Think of a goal that you really would like to accomplish. Your body is completely relaxed, and focus a bit on your breathing. If thoughts try to draw you away, simply bring them back. Now think of your goal or wish and see yourself as accomplishing it. Be as clear as you can with the vision. Allow yourself to feel all the positive emotions associated with accomplishing your goal or achieving your wish. Experience how good it feels to have taken a thought and turned it into reality. Sit with the positive feelings. You see yourself having accomplished your goal. Now, begin to add details to the vision. How do you look when you accomplish your goal? Where are you? How are the people around you responding to you? Add as much detail to the vision as possible. Do this as often as you can. Each time, have the vision of yourself accomplishing your goal. Sit with the feelings. Develop more and more details. Each time you do the exercise, you will find yourself editing the vision. Your unconscious mind will start clarifying your intent. It is with the clarity of intent that vision becomes a reality. Remember, the mind does not know the difference between an experience imagined and an experience that is real. Okay, so now open your eyes, look around the room, breathe comfortably. Thank you so much for letting me share this beautiful information, this very special practice. I want to, again, in all of the things that he indicates, everything that he indicates, the more time and energy you give to these practices, the more result you have. So it's one thing to know about them, and it's another thing to actually do them. So I encourage you. Now, in the practice of the mandala dance, we include all of this in there. Everything is inside the dance itself. This is why it is so powerful and so effective. This is why I have mentioned at the beginning, it was my search to understand why we were having such powerful experiences. So I want to encourage you all to do your own personal practice, but also to get together as much as possible and dance together, sing together, engage together, because it is also in the communal support of these aspirations that we are capable of great achievement. We've really noticed in our various Tara offerings and practices, one of the most potent parts of the experience is the connection that the dancers make with each other. That we open ourselves to each other and we support each other in our aspirations. This is extremely important, and it allows us to fulfill our beautiful place in the world, because each one of us, we have our little job to do, whatever that is. You know, we have our gift to give, and nobody can give your gift. You are yourself a wonderful, radiant, dynamic light being, and we need you. Okay, so let's take a few minutes to have any questions or answers. I'm going to turn this over to Josh so he can explain how we can do this. Josh?
Okay, as I've mentioned in the chat panel, everyone can either ask a question there, and I'll go ahead and pass it along to Prema, or in the Manage Participants panel, you'll see an option to raise your hand. I've got one question for you, Prema, from Lori Ingram, hoping to get some logistics on the offering for Anam in California in June.
Okay, yeah, well, right now we're negotiating with Bruno to see if we'll be able to do our practices in Richmond, but it's definitely happening. Actually, it's part of my news announcement. So if you don't mind, Lori, we'll wait until I get to them, because as soon as I finish answering questions, I'll make those announcements, okay? But thanks for asking. Is there any other question, Josh?
So far, that's all we got, but I'll go ahead and chime in if we receive anything.
Okay, and no hands up, right?
All hands rested.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, super. So here's the news, Tara Dhatu news, right? Actually, it's kind of been such a fascinating month, because Midi and I have been here in the mountains behind Rio de Janeiro, and living in this little tiny cottage by a river where there's a magnificent waterfall. So it's about a 3/4 of a mile walk to the waterfall, which we do every day uphill, which, you know, has been intense, and do a nice swim and then come back. We had a 1-week Dakini retreat. It's the first time I actually taught the Dakinis in this context. So that was kind of, we only invited a handful of people who were in the neighborhood. The residential facilities are not all that great for everybody, but we had 12 beautiful dancers. And for those of you who were at the Munlam practice, if you remember the Abhisheka dance, the beautiful Abhisheka dance that, and those of you who bought the zip drive, also the Abhisheka dance is there of the 5 wisdom Dakinis. And so we worked with that. It was really, wow, it was powerful. Between all of the meditations and the dance, it was a powerful week. So then we had intense rainstorms, tons of mud, slipping around, and The electricity was out, the internet was out, the water was out, the drains were out. We had, oh, such an exciting time of it. Fortunately, life in Canayo is not too different. And so being used to dealing with the vagaries of our comfort, but we managed. And so here we are. I'm hoping to do another Zoom. Next time we'll be back in Brasilia where things are a little more civilized. But I'm very happy to see that we were able to keep the internet on because they complain about us using it too much, but ho, ho, ho. At any rate, that's just to give you a little idea of what we've been doing. Into the Magic Shop is the name of James Doty's book. And then Venerable Lama Kunga Rinpoche, for those of you who live in the Bay Area, but also Lama Kunga has traveled a great deal and he adores the Tara dance. He has been a great supporter. He used to come every year to give empowerment of the Tara dance. And he was the first Lama that when I discovered he had the ability to give the empowerments of the 21 Taras in the Surya Gupta tradition. He came to Maui and did it. And it was the first time that he had offered this publicly. And so he's going to be offering this again at his beautiful Dharma Center in Kensington. So you can look up EWAM, E-W-A-M, Choden, C-H-O-D-E-N, if you want to attend. That's on March 22nd through 25th. Yeah, so that's very special. It's exceptional to receive the empowerment of. Next time I'll talk a little bit more about what empowerment means, because I know that comes up all the time. And I just got an excellent discussion about this from Ken McLeod. Okay, then this just came up yesterday. Many of you know that our beautiful Tara sister Elizabeth Breck has disappeared. 2 months ago she disappeared, and we don't know. We have no idea where she's gone, what has happened, and this has been very distressing because you know we're a pretty tight family, and Elizabeth was extremely generous in her sharing of the dance and her sharing of the Dharma, and also we know that she had quite a struggle, personal struggle. So many of the dancers have been really upset and wondering what to do. I wrote a prayer that we posted so that, you know, to give some orientation. But the girls in Vermont have decided that they're going to organize a spring equinox mandala to honor Elizabeth. And so Saturday, March 30th and Sunday, March 31st, in the Plainfield Co-op in Plainfield, Vermont. So I understand that our wonderful Ivy from Madison, Wisconsin is going to be flying in to share the 8 precious offerings. I also heard that Pia is thinking of organizing a dance at the shell dance. So I don't know about that. She hasn't confirmed it with me, but I just heard, you know, 2 hours before we went online. But at any rate, if you can't be at any of these, at least we can all for a moment, just for a moment, send our loving thoughts out to Elizabeth, wherever she is, whether she's embodied or not, whether she's on this planet or wherever she is. Our prayer is that she receives our love. She knows that we are completely doing whatever we can to find her and bring her home and pray for her well-being. And if she's not embodied, that she continue on her journey of awakening, because she's a very sincere Dharma student, very sincere, beautiful person. Okay, then let's see, what else do we have here? I'm in Brazil. And in fact, Midi and I will be flying back to Brasilia at the end of the month. And we'll be in Brasilia for a month, and then we're going up to Natal, which is in the far northeast corner, where our beautiful Xenia has a beach apartment. So we're going to stay for a week at the beach, and we'll teach a weekend workshop there. So if you want to pop over to northeast Brazil and join us, you're welcome. And then, of course, we have our magnificent South American annual retreat at Paraíso na Terra. And of course, Miri will make you very welcome. Those of you who are from out of town, she can make all the arrangements, and the prices, considering the exchange rate of the dollar to the real, it's pretty amazingly reasonable. And there are some really good flights these days, so check it out. Be great to see you here, and it's wonderful to dance, as those of you who attended the Munlam can attest, how fantastic it is to dance with the beautiful South American women. It's really incredible. Now we come to, from that we will fly to our beautiful annual retreat in New Lebanon, the upstate New York, at the Abode of the Message. And we're very excited that we're going to do our retreat there. It's a Sufi haven. It was Anayat Khan's place and Pir Vilayat Khan's place, and it's really suffused with the most beautiful energy, and the food is fantastic, and it's really comfortable. And as Parvati assures us, there is no karma yoga, so it's only going to be 5 days instead of 7, which makes it more affordable. And also we will concentrate on our Tara practices. And my goal is really to help us to engage as much as possible in practice. There, at the end of my notes, there are 2 beautiful articles. I don't know if you all have heard of the Lion's Roar. It's a magazine, a Dharma magazine. And they had 2 articles about these, 3 articles about these amazing women. But there were 2 that were specifically, I thought they were really important for us. One was the life and teachings of Sister Chan Kong, who is, she was the main, or she is, the main attendant of Thich Nhat Hanh. And their practices that they have assembled, and a lot of it is online, their practices are so communally oriented and so relevant for the modern world. It's really spectacular. So I have a little link here that I'll send to those. And then Deepa Ma was the one of the main teachers of some of our Vipassana, like Jack Cornfield and so forth and so on, Sylvia Borstein. She's amazing. And her thing was, she was a householder, a mother, a grandmother. So she never moved out of her house. She did all of her practice and engaged fully in the life of a householder. And so for those of us who have no intention in going to the monastery or going to the cave, it's really helpful to really read about her way. Now, she's a little extreme, and it might be, you know, it's not necessarily the way for us. But when I was studying Tai Chi, not Tai Chi, but what is the one? Chilel. When I was studying Chilel, Luke Chan, I asked him, what do you think is the most significant thing in making it happen? Why is it that many Chinese people completely cure themselves of these most radical diseases? And yet here we are, you know, in the West, we have our modern education and so forth. Why are we behind them? Why is it less effective? I'm not saying it's not effective, but it definitely appeared to me to be less effective. And he said, because he said the thing to do is to really relate to people who have been cured, to stimulate, to associate with those who have attained some form of achievement with the practice. And I think that that's the case with our spiritual life as well, that holy stories, stories of people who have really, as normal people, engaged in the various practices that they have and have achieved high states of awakening. It's important for us to associate with these stories. It's very helpful because it reminds us, if they can do it, certainly we can. And now that brings me to, okay, Woodstock. which Hope still hasn't sorted out exactly where or how that's going to be. So if you want to join us in Woodstock, keep in touch with her. And then we fly across the country to California. We're going to, so Lori, we're going to dance White Tara for Anam Tupten. And so we'll have 2 sessions on Saturday, June 29th, and 1 on Sunday morning. Now I'm hoping at least the Sunday morning practice could be in Bruno's, which is at Point Richmond, which is right across the street from Anam's place. The other one, it's really okay wherever you want to practice. We're going to do Motivation, Refuge, Bodhicitta, Shantideva, the 8 precious offerings, White Tara and the 6 shields, Tara the White, compassion for all beings, and Omahung, invocation and dedication. And I have made significant progress on Anam's heart prayer to Tara. So hopefully we'll be able to at least play that for him and maybe sing along with him, which would be quite lovely. But until Barbara is back from her journey, Lori, so I know that she's been in touch with Bruno, and we'll see what we can get going as far as where we're going to do what. So then after that I get to go home. Oh yes, Lori, question.
What time is the offering?
I think it's the same as last time. Wasn't it at noon when we offered to him?
It might have been 1, but it's sort of midday-ish.
Well, it's either noon or 1 o'clock, something like that. Yeah.
So the session at Bruno's on Sunday would be from
10 to 12.
when to when?
10 to 12.
10 to 12, okay. And not back again. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, we'll just go right across the street and dance. Okay? Yeah, then I get to go home. I get to go home to Maui with Miri, and we'll be dancing twice a month on new moon and full moon. So if you or any of your friends are popping into Maui, just send me an email and I'll make sure you're on the Maui list. Or if you just want to be on the Maui list because that's kind of a fun thing to do, then just let me know and we'll put you, and you'll know, because I don't usually confirm the date until 10 days, at the most 2 weeks before it actually happens, because it has to do with, it's so far away. I have to sort out what my other operations in town are going to be. Okay, September, we'll do a weekend workshop on Kauai. We haven't decided when that's going to be, so I encourage you Kauai girls, because I see a few of them. There's Robin and Shoshana and Ayana. Of course, please get together and determine what date and what you want, and we will come and do it. Yes, it would be lovely to be with our beautiful Kauai Sangha. Yep, and then, of course, there is the fabulous offering to Dhamala. And I do want to encourage all of you that are planning to come and dance in the mask with us. I think we may have a possibility for scholarship. So if you want to come and you have a problem with finances, let me know, and we'll see what we can do about getting some scholarship money for you. Because I want to have 22 dancers at least to wear the masks and to really to dance for Dhamala, to dance for these great beings is such an exceptional experience. I really, really want to encourage all of you. And you know, I try my best to make it possible for us to do these offerings, like with Anam and with Dhamala, and of course with Sultram next year, because I think together it's the power of our united prayer that makes it's such an opportunity for transformation of consciousness. So let's see, gosh, oh yes, and then my friend in Ecuador, for those of you on Maui who know Frisia, she's living in Ecuador with her husband, and they are definitely wanting us to do a Tara dance there, and we were talking about bringing a few people with us and doing a little tour of Ecuador. So if any of you are interested in that, please let me know, because it would probably be April next year when we do that. Doesn't that sound like fun? I mean, Ecuador, I've heard some, Vilcabamba. You can look it up on the internet. It's considered the place in the world that has the purest water and air. So that's definitely on our Ecuador visit list. Okay, so I think that's it. I think that we've exhausted our news and our, wow, and it's gotten dark and you can still see me. That's pretty amazing. Fantastic. So please, let's put our hands together just for the moment. And let's just think about how precious this is, this incredible opportunity. It's so beautiful to see all of you. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy that we can do this. I'm really just delighted, and I hope that we can gather more of our beloveds. So thank you, and whatever inspiration, whatever joy we've gathered through this sincere practice, I pray that it may move through the world and bring blessing and benefit to all. Om, ah, hum, om, ah, hum, om, ah, hum.